All right, so patient panel. So I read something that said that everybody's testimony will eventually become somebody else's survival guide. And so we all have a person or something that helped us in our platform, in our healing platform. And it's so true because it's so powerful when you hear something from somebody else, maybe about your specific cancer or circumstances that you were going through when you were first diagnosed. And so all of these people, look at all these handsome guys back behind me. Wow, this is a very handsome panel. So we're gonna start with our video. So our filmmaker, you're a filmmaker, right? So we're gonna start with our filmmaker, Chris Joseph, and Jacob Williams. I'm so tired. I'm sorry, guys. Jacob Williams. So Jacob is a filmmaker, and he had a prostate cancer journey, and he created a little film clip that really is beautifully done, and it talks a little bit about how it was for him going through this experience. So we're going to play that first.
I had no idea that the frequent trips to the bathroom at night and my weak urine flow had anything to do with the health of my prostate. I assumed it was just a sign of me aging. When I was diagnosed, I was not prepared for that. Probably should have been. I was living a busy, stressful life. Commercial film director, 4 kids, college tuition, on top of the regular bills that strangle you, divorced twice, moved to a few different cities. I had ballooned up to 200 pounds over time. I started exercising again. Yoga was my thing. I was also cycling and spinning. I was eating well. And at the time, I thought it was healthy. And I was going to the doctor for annual checkups. I was taking care of myself. And then my PSA was high. I started with a 4, and it began to climb. It went from a 4 to a 5 to a 7 to a 9. All the follow-up tests came back negative. I was good. I didn't have any cancerous lesions in my prostate. Yeah, I was on Viagra, Cialis, Flomax. I told the doctor what my problem was. He gave me a medical solution. I was put on watchful waiting or active surveillance. Looking back, what were they waiting for? Cancer. Scary word. When that word was used in reference to me, it shook me to my core. All I could think about was dying. I knew I wanted to live, and I wanted to get the cancer out of my body, but I didn't want to be maimed by the disease. I didn't want parts taken out of my body. I wanted to keep all my parts, and I wanted to have a good quality of life. Just a guy who got diagnosed with stage 2 prostate cancer, and the doctor recommended that I have either surgery or radiation treatments. Both endanger your natural ability to either pee, poop, or have sex. Is there no other way to get rid of stage 2 prostate cancer without damaging your prostate or your body? I know there are other guys out there that are receiving the same diagnosis that I received. They too are being told to either have surgery or radiation treatments. With stage 2 prostate cancer, you don't necessarily need to have your prostate taken out. But in this medical environment, where financial incentives rule, they're castrating men. I believe they're taking out prostates unnecessarily. I talked to a number of guys that had the surgery or radiation and hormone therapy. Few have said they are 100% after those procedures. The majority gave a mixed bag of reviews: erectile dysfunction, incontinent issues, zero libido. So what was being offered to me? Those possible side effects or the threat of cancer? I got a bunch of second opinions, and I did a lot of research. I chose some alternative methods, and I also chose to make some lifestyle changes. I still have my prostate. I'm probably the healthiest I've been in decades. In my story and ebook, I'll share all the methods utilized and the lifestyle changes I put into practice, along with a full explanation of how and why, and talk with the medical practitioners that guided me on this journey. If my story can help one guy avoid that kind of trauma in his life and to his family, then it's worthwhile sharing, and hopefully many more will get the message.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Eventually, I'd love to create a film that captures my entire journey because I believe it reveals the vicious cycle that so many of us unknowingly are trapped in. At the start of my promo that you just watched, you hear me talking about living a busy life? Can you hear me now? Better? Better? How's that? Okay, I'll do that. I said eventually I'd love to create a film that captures my entire journey because I believe it reveals the vicious cycle so many of us are unknowingly trapped in. At the start of my promo, you hear me talk about living a busy, stressful life. My tone in that film reflects what has become the norm to me in our society. Stress is accepted and expected. So the standard American life is built on stress. The standard American food is ultra-processed and unhealthy. The standard American healthcare doesn't always prioritize our well-being. For a long time, I was going along with that program. I was stressed. I was eating the wrong foods, and I was receiving healthcare that was doled out by the book. I don't believe that version of me would have beat cancer. What you don't see in this promo are the moments, both positive and negative, that forced me to wake up and break out of that cycle. I'd like to walk you through them. I apologize in advance because I'm going to do some jumps through chunks of time in an effort to tell my story in the amount of time allotted. For example, we all know when you call a doctor's office to get an appointment in February, the receptionist is certainly going to say to you, well, his next first available time is April 19th. Is that good for you? No, it's not. So consider what I'm about to say. It's like cliff notes to my story. I had a biopsy on a Friday. It was the last one I hope I ever had. I've had 4. They will not release you after the procedure until you can urinate on your own. And your prostate's been traumatized, so it's really not working. After a couple of hours, I still couldn't urinate. So they catheterized me. Now it's Friday, and they send me home and tell me come back on Monday. I was going out on Saturday night. How do I do that with this tube and a bag hanging out of my penis? I'm like, what's happening? I was miserable. I was really messed up, and it made me think, was this foreshadowing? Is this what aging and being sick looks like? I didn't talk to a soul that entire weekend. I never left my house, and that catheter came out first thing Monday morning. Later that week, I got my results back from the doctor. More bad news. He handed me a copy of the results, and he translated. Your PSA is up to a 13. You have 3 lesions with Gleason scores of 6, 6, and 7, all roughly 1 centimeter each. You have stage 2 prostate cancer, and he's recommending surgery and radiation. Now, context. I had just moved, new city, new doctor, I'm there by myself. I don't know what to ask, I don't know what to say. When I finally speak, the only thing I can come up with is, well, what happens when you take out my prostate? Without looking at me, he says, you will no longer make semen. There's no talk about a 50-50 chance of incontinent issues or erectile dysfunction issues, loss of libido, possibility of depression, nothing. I leave there freaked out, and I go home and I start doing research, reading, and I begin to start scheduling a bunch of second opinions. The time element again. I'm completely nervous and freaked out because I have a timer on me. All I can envision is cancer is rifling through my body, eating me alive. I schedule these appointments. I meet with a urologist, an oncologist, a radiation oncologist, and a surgeon. Everybody but the surgeon had the same conclusion, radiation or surgery. The surgeon had 5 minutes? I got 5 minutes. That's all I have is 5 minutes? Whoa, okay.
Our April 7th.
Yeah, exactly. The surgeon had a different take on it. He said to me, prostate cancer is a slow-moving disease. He says, I don't know why your doctor's in a hurry. For you to have radiation or surgery, I don't understand that. But he said he probably has a deal somewhere. And when that surgeon said that about his colleague, I was completely blown away. I was thrown. The surgeon continued with a lesson. He literally drew a diagram of a prostate, and he takes me through nerve-sparing surgery. He tells me that I don't want radiation because radiation basically burns the organ, and it slowly kills it over time, and you're left with a dead organ in your body. He says, but from what I can see, you do have time to do something to mitigate the situation. If you need to do it, you should do it right now. To me, that conversation gave me grace. At the same time, I was seeing a chiropractor that I befriended. She had lived in London and had some personal experience with homeopathy. She recommended and referred me to a homeopath in Atlanta. She too gave me grace. I was getting angels. I was being talked to from above. I went to the homeopath, and the intake was something I'd never experienced. It went something like this. Are you in love? How do you feel about being divorced? Do you get along with your family members? Do you have any regrets about your past relationships? How do you feel about thunder and lightning? Does it scare you or does it excite you? What kind of food do you eat? I was completely confused and wondering what I'd gotten into. Sonia, the homeopath, she said it's not just about healing the physical ailment. It's about healing the things that when you're awake. I build a picture of who you are, and then I know what remedies to give you. To me, it was still a little too intrusive. She had a laundry list of prescriptions, but the key prescription she doled out was a raw diet. I didn't want to do that. It was winter, and the idea of not eating cooked food was not appealing to me at all. But Sonia said it's time basically to clean you out. She said you need a reset. So I did it. She said try it for a month. I did it for 3 months. After a raw diet, I transitioned to cooked vegetables. I'd been educating myself on processed food, and I was astounded how embedded processed foods is in our society. It's literally everywhere. Probably why I extended my diet for 90 days. I don't know where it came from. My body also demanded that I exercise. I was exercising like crazy. Yoga a few times a week, swimming a few times a week, weightlifting. The more I exercised, the more my body called for it. It was like my body knew it had to prepare itself for whatever was coming. I'd been working with Sonia for a few months, and she says to me, go to Dr. Mark Hancock and go get a mistletoe shot. What the heck is a mistletoe shot? I have no idea. I go see Dr. Hancock. He's a general practitioner with a practice full of cancer patients. He was trained in Europe under a well-known doctor who was successfully treating cancer patients with mistletoe. Dr. Hancock brought that practice to Atlanta, and he's doing the exact same thing. And during my intake with him, he says, you're here early. Most people come to me as a Hail Mary. Why are you here so soon? I told him I'm not interested in having my prostate removed because I'm afraid it might ruin my quality of life. I got plans for that thing. What endeared me to Dr. Hancock is that he talked and he listened. He was willing to share information. He was sharing what he was thinking. This dude was excited that I had gone on a raw diet and transitioned to cooked food. He encouraged my exercising, especially the weightlifting. He shared information and he encouraged me to look certain things up. I shared any information that I picked up, and he would fill in the gaps. He set me up with subcutaneous mistletoe injections at home while I was getting vitamin C infusions at his practice. In our first meeting, I told him what I wanted, and he set out to meet the goal and enrolled me in the effort. We were collaborating on my health, and that was amazing. When mistletoe, I'll skip the mistletoe. It's now about 10 months since I had my diagnosis. I've only had blood tests. I go get an MRI, the results come back, nothing has changed. There's still 3 lesions, and they're 1 centimeter long. To this note, Dr. Hancock starts talking to me about hypothermia. Now, he talks about there's a particular procedure that can only be done in Germany. It's basically running a tube through your urethra down to your prostate and then heating it from there. He's not aware of anybody in the States who can do such a procedure, and he also says the hypothermia machines are large and hard to come by. They're big and bulky and usually the size of a small refrigerator. Enter Thermofield. Dr. Hancock finds a company in the States that's making a portable hypothermia machine, and he buys one. The new procedure now is for me to get a mistletoe infusion and sit on a microwave pad from the hypothermia machine immediately after. We do this for about a month and a half. I go get another MRI, 1 lesion killed. I go, great. We do the same thing for 4 months. I get another MRI, no change. Still 2 lesions. In the meantime, Dr. Hancock has introduced me to the owner of Thermofield, Dennis Clark. We do a project together, and in the process of doing this project, I hear other doctors are having success with mistletoe, ozone, or chemo with the hypothermia. And they are applying it to women's breasts after they are directly injecting their tumors with either mistletoe, ozone, or chemo. I hear this and I immediately run to Dr. Hancock and go, inject my prostate. The look on his face says he's not excited, as I am. He thinks it's a great idea, but he doesn't know how to do it. So he says he will find somebody for me. A couple of months go by. Dr. Hancock connects me to Dr. Hal Blattman, who has offices in New York and Cincinnati. Of course, it takes about a month to get an appointment. I travel to New York, and Dr. Blattman injects me with lidocaine and mistletoe for the first round. All goes smoothly. I go back for a second round. Dr. Blattman says, how about we include ozone? Cancer doesn't like oxygen. I will tell you, the ozone injections hurt like a mother. I mean, so while he's injecting me, I'm sucking on nitrous oxide in order to get a buzz and maybe alleviate some of the pain, but I'm not. It's not relieving your pain. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. I get a third round of that, and I'm also getting hypothermia treatments. I go back and get an MRI. Lesion number 2 is gone. Oddly enough, while the lesions are going down, my PSA is going up. Dr. Hancock is concerned, and he wants me to try a pharmaceutical cocktail of Casodex and Letrozole. Casodex is for prostate cancer. Letrozole is for breast cancer. He had success lowering people's PSAs with this combo. We do it for 2 months. Doesn't work for me. Raises my testosterone to dangerous levels, and one of the side effects is hot flashes. So now I'm a menopausal woman. I'm so glad we stopped that. It was miserable. And ladies, you guys have babies and have menopause. My hat's off to you. Guys, don't ever fight with them. During this trial, I go back to Dr. Blattman and get my 4th series of injections. And then I go get another MRI. All lesions gone. You can have 1,000 problems in life until you have a health problem, and then you have one. Now, I feel it's just time for me to maintain the lifestyle that I developed. It's about food. It's about exercise. There are 3 things I really took away from it, and one of them is self-advocacy. It's critical. I did research. I asked a lot of questions. I didn't want anything unless I understood exactly what it was before and after. And I was given the grace to build and curate a team around me that was willing to talk, educate, and guide me, from the chiropractor to the guy who injected me. So food and exercise are primary tools for healing. Nobody else can do those 2 things for you. And both of those things will determine how you will be here. And last but not least, there's spirit. I was open. I was positive. I believed. I believed in my body. You've heard those adages. Body is the best doctor in the room. Your body is a hospital. You have to give it a tool so it can stay open. It's true. Thank you.
Wow, what a journey. That is amazing. The way you describe described it and you articulated, you really are a filmmaker. You need to keep going. We need you to direct some other films for us as we go along. But wow, an amazing journey. What courage. Honestly, you hung in there and you just took charge of your body. So congratulations and God bless you. You look so healthy.
Thank you very much.
And you really look so happy.
Oh, I am. I'm very happy. Thank you.
So thank you for coming and visiting us and traveling here. That was really a wonderful thing for us. And I know it probably was a wonderful thing for you now that you're here, right?
It was a very wonderful thing, and thank you for having me.
Of course. We're friends for life now. Yes. So next up is Chris Joseph, and I'm going to have him come up. Chris knows a lot of people here. Yeah, so we're going to do, as we often do with the panel, at the very end, we'll ask questions, have you come up with a microphone and ask any questions, and then the panel will be here after the session is over to answer questions as well as all the other speakers do. Okay. Hi, Chris. How are you? Good. So make sure you get close to the microphone.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah. So I was here last year, and I went up to Rick, who's sitting in the third row. And Rick, I don't know if you remember me. I went up to you and said, I want to be on the patient panel. And you said, ask Julia. so I did. I went up to you and you said, not now. Email me afterwards. And I did. And I kept bugging you and bugging you and bugging you. And lo and behold.
Well, honestly, we need to do everything we have to offer when we propose. So it's fun. Wait until it will be.
I like my version of the story better. So here's a little secret. I have spent a lifetime avoiding public speaking, a lifetime. So when I was asking Rick and I asked you, I was like, what in the heck am I doing?
You're doing great.
Thank you. Even though I'm nervous right now, I know this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to be to tell my story, which I'm about to do, to provide hope for people, just like Jacob did, and that was great, and to show what is possible. And now I'm going to go into my prepared remarks. Anyway, but thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Three things I want to speak with you about today. First of all, I want to tell you about my cancer journey of thriving with pancreatic cancer. Then I want to get on a soapbox for a couple minutes and talk about things we need to do in this country to get healthier. And then lastly, I want to talk about what I call a patient's Bill of Rights. But first, my cancer story. I often tell people that being a pancreatic cancer thriver is somewhat like being a unicorn, rare and often met with surprise. When I was diagnosed with stage 3 pancreatic cancer back in 2016, 8.5 years ago, many people around me thought I wasn't going to survive. I saw the pity looks, and I was getting pity looks when people found out. And there was a phase when I believed I wouldn't be around much longer. But here I am more than 8 years later, and not just surviving, but thriving. I want to share with you how that came to be. Thanks. So it was October 2016, I received the devastating diagnosis of stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Anyone who knows even a little bit about this disease understands its severity and its poor outcomes. For context, about 70% of pancreatic cancer patients in the United States die within the first year. That's 70, die within the first year, and 90% don't make it past 5 years. That grim reality weighs on you from the very start. At any rate, my oncologist recommended chemotherapy, and so that's what I did. I began with the standard of care approach. Traditional chemo infusions meant to shrink the tumor enough for possible surgery later. Like a lot of us, I think, Jacob, I think you may have said this, I put my trust in Western medicine, and that was a mistake. I thought they know best, they deal with this disease daily. Yet by March 2017, I had test results showing that not only my tumor was not shrinking, it was growing. Meanwhile, I was feeling completely worn down by the chemo. Nausea, fatigue, weight loss, mental fog, and a creeping sense of despair. That was the moment I realized that if I continued on the path I was on, I was probably going to succumb from the chemo instead of the cancer. So in March of 2017, I made a decision right then and there. I quit chemo and fired my oncologist. Thank you. It was the best decision I made. I quit chemo, fired him, and as radical as it may sound, I needed to do something different. I didn't have a plan B at the time. I didn't even know if a plan B existed. My friends and family thought I was insane, and part of me thought I was insane. But I was ready to change course in a way that resonated with my intuition. Something inside insisted that there had to be another way. This leads me to the first major insight I want to share. There is no easy path. Healing from cancer or any chronic or life-threatening illness requires an unshakable commitment, and it takes a lot of work. I want to say that again, it takes a lot of work. It's more than just swallowing a pill or a supplement or going to an appointment. When I say there's no easy path, I mean it in the most literal way. Taking charge of your health isn't about casually opting out of conventional treatment or blindly trusting even an alternative therapy. It's a daily decision to do what you believe is best to heal. So when people learn that I've not only survived but thrived for the last 8.5 years, I get this question a lot. Tell us what you did. Tell me what you did. So now I'm going to tell you what I did, at least some of it. Hi. So here's just a sample of my regimen included, of what my regimen included. High-dose vitamin C, ozone therapy, dendritic stem cell therapy, mistletoe, and there's more, CBD, acupuncture, chiropractic, coffee enemas, and by the way, I nicknamed those crappuccinos for anyone who's done those. And I'm going to patent that name. Enzyme protocols, intermittent fasting, hyperthermia, more. There's infrared saunas I did. Still do that every day. Had the mercury fillings in my teeth removed. 2 psilocybin journeys, which I'd be happy to talk to you about offline. And countless supplements, the list of which is too long to mention in this talk. 10 minutes. I'm going to finish in 10 minutes. Simultaneously, I was seeing a therapist, practicing meditation, doing a daily gratitude practice, and immersing myself in nature. Did I do all of these things every single day? Of course not. There were different protocols at different times, but the overarching principle was consistent. I threw everything I could at the cancer. I researched relentlessly, I listened to my body, and I made adjustments when I felt something wasn't right. Overall, even today, and a gentleman asked me before, what worked for you? And I don't know exactly what worked because I did so many things. But I know that becoming the CEO of my health journey played the larger role. Food also played a larger role. One of the most significant changes I made was addressing my diet. Before cancer, I made some healthy food choices here and there, but I was also eating plenty of processed foods, sugars, and meals on the go, the bachelor life. After my diagnosis, and especially once I shifted to an integrative path, I learned how crucial nutrition and healthy food was in this journey. I explored a variety of diets: keto, vegan, raw, vegetarian, pescatarian, and it was frustrating because I was getting a lot of different advice. Ultimately, I ended up with an approach that worked for me: mostly organic, whole foods, minimal sugar, no processed foods, and I dramatically lowered my overall carb intake. I focused on low carb because research shows that cancer cells can thrive on sugar and high carb diets. By focusing on real healthy food, I gave my body some of the tools it needed to repair itself. It wasn't always easy. I had cravings and moments where I missed the comfort of old food habits. But each time I thought about caving in, I remembered that every bite I took, every bite, was either feeding my disease or feeding my health. And that's really important. That shift, seeing food as medicine, became a cornerstone of my daily practice, and it still is today. In fact, I think I even eat better now than I did when I made the shift a few years ago. Aside from food, another pivotal lesson I learned was the power of the mind-body connection. Most people understand on some level that stress is bad for our health. When your body is in a prolonged fight or flight state, whether from traumas or anxieties or unresolved issues, it produces hormones like cortisol that can suppress immune function and increase inflammation. I had had experiences in childhood I'd never fully processed. Family conflicts, personal traumas that I swept under the rug for decades. In therapy, I had to confront these head on, acknowledge the emotional pain, and learn tools for healing. I adopted mindfulness and meditation practices, and that helped give me a sense of calm and clarity. I made getting healthier my number one job. That may sound extreme, but consider that cancer, especially what I had, required that diligent, important role. Almost every day I wake up asking myself, even now, what steps can I take today to support my healing? Whether it was getting a vitamin infusion, going for a walk outdoors, or listening to a guided meditation, I saw these positive actions as a statement of commitment. I've got a lot more, so I'm going to wrap up. I've heard these terms used a lot in this conference, and I hear them, I read them on social media, I hear them in conversation. I'm just giving you my personal opinion. I don't ask people to believe me, or agree with me, but I don't like the terms fighting cancer or battling cancer. So one of my goals I'm now a cancer coach and a patient advocate. I want to rethink the language of cancer. It can make us feel as if we're at war with our own bodies, to use those terms. Instead, thank you. I now look back 8.5 years ago that cancer was sending me a message. My body was sending me a message. It was our body telling us something must change, and it's an invitation to get healthier. For me, it was a wake-up call, and I think it can be for you as well, for those of you who are going through this journey. It's an opportunity to change old habits and to build new practices that will help us survive and thrive. And by the way, I think that's another languaging issue I'd like to change. Surviving isn't good enough. Surviving is not good enough. Let's shoot for thriving. I would like to end with this. We all benefit from examples of hope, real people who stepped outside the boundaries of standard of care, explored integrative methods, or simply refused to let statistics dictate their destiny. People with cancer who successfully navigated this journey before me taught me that a cancer diagnosis is not a final verdict, but rather a call to examine how we are living. They taught me what was possible. I hope I can be that story, a story of hope and possibility for any of you who are dealing with a difficult cancer journey. Thank you.
Wow, so great. Congratulations, Chris and Jacob, for your success. So typically we have 3 people on the panel that have had cancer journeys, and I'm going to change it up a little bit this year, and I was thinking about how I usually moderate the patient panel. I've done it for many, many years, and I usually start off with a very brief introduction about my cancer journey. But this year I thought my cancer journey wouldn't have really taken on the path that it did unless I had an angel. And my angel was this guy right here, Mark Sherwati. And he helped me, and we barely knew each other, really. We knew each other from the gym and from running at the beach, and you were a transplant to Greenwich, Connecticut, where I lived. And Mark was from Albany, and he was in town working for GE. And we would often get together and run, and he would use, I mean, his vocabulary is so vast. I mean, half the words he was using I didn't even understand. Probably never even heard them. I had to look them up. But, so I was diagnosed in the year 2000 with infiltrating ductal carcinoma, stage 2B, and lupus simultaneously, almost within 90 days of each other. And it was shocking because I was getting ready to run like a mini triathlon and training and running around the world and trying to do my job. And so my whole world changed that day when I heard those two words, you know, lupus, breast cancer. And so I got on my knees and I prayed, and I asked God to give me peace and give me direction. And I come from a big Italian family, as you know, and I found that it was easier for me to talk to Mark because he barely knew me. And he would give me a very honest opinion about what he thought I should do because he had a science background and he understood nutrition. And so, because often when you get a diagnosis, it's harder to manage the emotions of the people that you have to tell. You dread it. You dread telling them, your parents, your siblings, your friends, your spouse. And you have to just expel all this energy to deal with their emotion that you often have to forget about what you're dealing with because you're worried for them. And so you were like the second person I told that I had cancer, and I think I told you at the gym, hey, by the way, I just got this diagnosis, right? So my journey was very different. In the year 2000, there was nothing on the internet. There was really not a lot to where to go. I found Annie Famfa. I called her about 6 months later, but I did some research and I took notes, and I had notebooks and notebooks of notes and watched videos, and I implemented what is really considered to be the Gerson diet, and I became a raw food vegan, and I literally threw out everything in my house: food, clothing, carpets, microwave, makeup, cleaning solutions, everything that I could think of, because in my brain I was thinking it's easier for me to just get rid of everything and start fresh and then do a complete detox and work with fertile ground versus, well, is this good or is that good? You know, trying to pick and choose. So essentially that is what I did. And I did that with the help of Mark, who I'm going to let talk in just a minute. But the one thing I want to share is that when I prayed, I had a total peace from God that everything was going to be okay. And it blew the minds of everybody I knew. All my friends were like, "You're crazy. What are you doing? This is nuts. You need to go to an oncologist." So I said, "All right, I'll go to an oncologist." So I went to an oncologist, and he told me that I needed to have a double mastectomy, do radiation, maybe chemo, and tamoxifen. And I had done a couple of months of research before that. And I looked at him and I said, "You know, I don't think I'm going to do any of that." And he's like, "Well, frankly, my dear, you are going to die." And I cried and I left the office, and I never went back to him. Essentially, the office fired me because they told me not to come back if I wasn't going to do those things. And so then Mark comes along and he said something that was so profound to me at the time, and it meant so much, because what you said to me was, "Jules, I am here and I'm going to help you navigate this maze of alternative medicine, and I'm going to teach you about the autoimmune system, and I'm going to help you. And here's this person who said they were going to spend an hour or two with me in the evenings when he could to navigate through the internet." And there was hardly anything on it at the time. But because he told me that, it supercharged me with like just encouragement. And it gave me this gumption that I found to forge ahead. And so I want to thank you because it's been 25 years. March 17th will be 25 years. And when I was thinking about the panel this year, I thought, what was the pivotal moment in my journey? And it was you telling me those simple words. So thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. I love you. So I'm going to give the mic to you.
How do you follow that? I don't know, but well, hey everybody. Let me get my notes. These guys always have notes. Well, I came here. I did not have cancer, and I've been listening this whole time to all the speakers and talking to some of you and putting myself in your shoes and realizing there's just great information coming to you. And so with Julia, I was thinking about what do I want to share with everybody? And a couple of things are just some themes that I think I learned over the past 25 years of not just helping Julia, but other people that I thought would help. Again, so when I met Julia, she was scared when she told me, but I think if you know Julia, she turned that into kind of a warrior. She was gonna go through this thing, and she was gonna get through it. But in protocols, what do you need? You need what to do, how much to do, right? When to do it. And I had studied, although I was a mechanical engineer and a physicist, my hobby was health, and I had studied it since I was a kid, and I just continued to study it. And over 15 years, I knew a lot, and I think there's no coincidences when you meet people. Very, very few. I think that we're put in people's places to help people, to encourage people, to support people. That's what we're here for, to love people. And so when Julia crossed my path, at that time I had, when I say figured out a process to get through cancer. And so when Julia told me, I said, it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. And I planned on being with her through that whole journey. And so Julia, just like all of you, you're here as an advocate. You can see in your, just by being here, you're going to get through it. So there are processes. The hopeful thing that I felt when I was in the audience is that all these people that are on stage have shared that there is a way to get through this. See, as engineering, when you're doing something, you have to have a plan. You'll never meet an engineer, a good one, without a great plan. But you know what you need? You need execution. You need execution on the back end. And that's where you come in. So Julia, I knew was going to execute if we went through it. And I sat through with her and I said, well, there's some things that we want to do. She mentioned one of them, which was one of the first steps, is to really make sure that your vessel, if you will, is clean. So when you think of all the things that come into us through chemicals, bad thoughts, lies, whatever, media, all these things are coming through us, we got to clean that out. And then your vessel is empty to get put in the good stuff. Because quite frankly, I think everyone should know that your body does most of the work, right? Almost all of the work. We do very little, gang, when it comes down to it. We eat, we sleep, we think, we pray, we journal, we exercise, okay? Not a small list, we have to balance that, but our body's doing trillions of things. So we just need to balance it. We need to do the right things in the right amount, and that's what we're learning to do here. So I had studied that for all those years, and I knew what those things were. I wasn't saying that I was perfect, And it's nice for you to call me an angel. That's pretty great. But I felt like I was able to help people, and I had helped people, and I continue to help people when they come into my path. Again, I think we cross paths for reasons. So with Julia, we went through it, and it was scary to think about doing non-traditional, right? But at the same time, when I asked her, "How long have you been healthy?" and she tells me, "All these years." I said, "That's right." So in engineering, you do a capability study. You look at something and you determine, is it capable of whatever you're trying to get to? It was capable. She was capable of being extremely healthy. So something had happened between the time that she got cancer and now. So we're just going to reverse that. We might have to double down on some things, which we did. There were some things like, wheatgrass and some things that oxygenated her system, things that brought in vitamin C, like you saw, the exercise. I mean, some of these things have caught up with some of the science. Some of the science that I had read isn't as far, obviously, 20 years later. Now they're really super confirming about these things. So now you have some definitive answers. So once we got her baseline, by the way, baselines are engineering term, but it's also a medical term. What does that mean? You're really understanding where you are, your current state today. That's what baseline is, right? Where are we today? Until you understand that, you can't apply any diagnostics. So doctors and auto mechanics and engineers, the best of them are really good at diagnostics when you think of it. That's what separates the pack. And so I was fortunate enough to have enough interest and whatever else that I really studied on how to do that. And what you're hearing a lot of in some of these presentations is these folks have that ability to diagnose, to figure out what it is first before just throwing something at it. And that's how you want to do it. So Julia did a bunch of tests. I helped her analyze it. We talked to the doctors as well, of course, and found out certain things. For example, she's Italian. And, well, that's not what we found out. Okay. Groundbreaking Italian. No. That she loved all things Italian. So she loved tomatoes and she loved eggplant. She was highly allergic to both of those. No bueno. So we had to remove those. And so when I was thinking about when you're going through an illness, there's sacrifice that's part of this. And you're going to have to do without some things that probably, quite frankly, were the root causes of perhaps you getting ill. And whether knowingly or unknowingly, right? So in Julia's case, there was a couple things that she did that she didn't even know they were bad. But once we did, we had to say goodbye to those things. So she did that, and then and what I told her, and I still do today, if I help somebody, I say, I'm not going to take anything away that I can't give you something that you like more. That's a pretty sweet deal. So not everybody's so easy to please like that, but I make a very good attempt on it. In any case, so we baseline, we diagnosed, we put her on another clean diet, if you will, and really just got her body into place as well as her prayer life. So really her whole balance was there, and we did have a session at church that when we prayed on her and over her, that there's no question that the Maker can do all things, right? So nothing's impossible, and that's really it. Is that the same God that made us all, loves us all, wants the best for us all, but we have to do a few things, which I read on. We don't have to do that much. We just a few things we have to do. So And Julia did. So we stayed diligent, and I'm a big journaler now. I've always been. After college, I just like to journal. But, I would say if you're not doing that, it's really important to get a lot off your chest. Helps you sleep at night. I mean, there's a lot of benefits for journaling, but you have a lot on your mind, gang. So to get them off your chest every day, really important. That's one certain thing that I would add on to that. But I thank God that Julia's healthy and has been healthy for all these years, and that in my small little way I was able to help her. And I hope that every one of you finds the people and keeps those people around that are supportive and helps you, and they're grateful for it every day as well. So I wish the best to everyone here, and God bless you. Thank you.
That was really nice. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And it's so great to see you. We haven't seen each other in a long time. When I called Mark, he was like, "What?" But a couple of things I wanted to just close with, and that is Chris, you said, about using phrases and fighting, so early on so within 90 days of Mark's program that I implemented, I went to MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston for a second opinion because, I kind of wanted to look at some more diagnostics and see what they were going to say. And when I got there, it was like night and day between Yale New Haven Health, Memorial Sloan Kettering, and now MD Anderson Cancer Center. It was darkness to light. Darkness to light. It was gray to white. The hallways of those hospitals were like dreadful, fearful, horrible for me. I got to MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. It was all like, y'all are from Connecticut? We are so here. We're so happy you're here, darling. We're going to take care of you. And everybody was holding my hand and coming with me in the rooms when I was doing ultrasounds and having blood work. I mean, literally, people holding my hand because they knew I was alone. I went there by myself. So that was one thing that really stuck in my mind. And the other thing is, we sat down at a boardroom, like a board meeting, and it was all these PAs and doctors and other practitioners, and they had read every single report of mine for 10 years leading up to my cancer, so they knew who Julia was then and that at that moment, and they asked me, "What do you want for the future?" And by the way, what are you doing? Because we just looked at your blood work and all your tumor markers are in normal range. And all of your blood work is in normal range except for your SED rate, because I had lupus. So my elevated SED rate was still very high. And I told them, and they said, "Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." And I ended up becoming like best friends with my surgical oncologist because I ended up having a lumpectomy. Because at the time, I just thought I should do it. I was a little scared. And I had the lumpectomy and a sentinel node biopsy, and everything was clean. And he and I became really good friends. And I told him about all my research and my notebooks and notebooks and notebooks full of information. And he said, "You should put together a little book." And then 4 years later, I published Breast Cancer, the Notebook, which is really a gift for women and men who were diagnosed with breast cancer to have the clinical and the environmental aspects to that disease. And so that was kind of like a very therapeutic thing. But I would say to everyone that asked me, "Well, you're in remission, right?" And I would say, "No, I don't use the word remission. I am healed." And there was more power in that, right? Right? So I think it's really important that we live and breathe the things that we're feeling and we articulate those, because we shouldn't be giving power over to negative, right? To me, remission means you're sitting on the edge of the seat and you're waiting for the next ball to drop, like, oh my gosh, right? I can't, like, this blood test is going to, put me over the top. So, and so thank you all for being here. And also to you, Mark, I just want to say that you get a lot of points, because when I was going through my journey, I took time off from work and a lot of other things. And I really love period pieces. And I was watching Pride and Prejudice. Now, what guy is going to watch Pride and Prejudice with you? So I ended up nicknaming Mark Mr. Darcy. And I still call him Mr. Darcy. So when I text him, I write D. How are you? So anyway, just a little fun thing. But anyway, we're going to end out the panel. If anybody has any questions for any of these guys, John can take them from the floor, or you can just come on up and talk to us, whatever you feel like. But it's just been so wonderful. This whole day has just been so wonderful, with the Best Answer for Cancer panel and all the other speakers. And just want to say, come to the concert tonight out by the pool. We're going to have lots of good food and fun, and you can dance if you want to. And I'm going to turn the mic over to John in case okay, we have a question.
Thank you for sharing all of your stories. Amazing. Sorry. I'm a nurse and a private patient advocate who's just learning about, not just learning, but first time here. And I have clients who are diagnosed with cancer and usually do the Western route. And I want to have them look at other options. And when I try to find what those options are, I feel lost, because I don't know who to trust. I don't know how to figure out the criteria by which to tell if somebody is on the up and up. And sitting in the back listening to everything, which is, you guys are so amazing how educated you are about your own cancers and how much you know. And my mind is blown away by what I've been listening to. There's so many options. Jacob, you went and had, you went from one doctor right to another doctor who then put you in touch with another doctor. So I see that line. I'm not quite sure how you did what you did. Okay, but did you go to one? Did you find one person to go to? Did you you went to dendritic? You went to acupuncture? You went to this? You went to that? You did supplements? You did. First of all, how would you tell somebody who is diagnosed with cancer how to be brave to buck the system, number one, how to get there, and then how to go through that process?
I'm not an engineer, but I did the math. And when I learned that 70% of pancreatic cancer patients are dead within a year, it really wasn't bravery. It was, I want to live. Yeah, it was necessary. And so I didn't look at it as like, I'm heroic or anything like that. It was, if I go down this path, I'm going to die. I might die going down the alternative path. I might, but I was going to go down on my own terms. There are lots of options out there, and I think it is overwhelming. It was overwhelming to me too. But in hindsight now, I look at that as an opportunity. I don't think there is just one way to get from point A to point B, point A being unhealthy, point B being healthy. I think there are many ways. So I think for your clients, you have to find out what resonates with them, what's affordable, because none of this stuff is cheap. What is working, what isn't working. You need to maybe recalibrate along the way. I can't sit here and tell you that, like I said this in my talk, none of it is easy. It's not easy. It's not like going Western medicine and getting a pill or a chemo infusion. It's not. It's hard work.
Well, I know your journey, but Julia, your journey, and I know Mark, you were helping her, but were you guiding her through through naturopaths, or with the help of or integrative doctors, or were you coming up with what needed to be done? How were you doing that?
Well, I had a tribe, but Mark was sort of the base control. So I had, there were a few doctors that obviously that I was talking to that I trusted, but it took a while to find them.
And how did you determine that you trusted them? Like, what are the criteria that when people are looking? I mean, because
it's really hard to find doctors in the year 2000 in Connecticut. It was extremely difficult to find many doctors that were really well versed in that. So I was recommended by my chiropractor to see Dr. McGlynn, and he was a naturopath, and he really helped me. But really, it took about 6 months to get my group of people together, and it just felt right the first conversation, because they really believed in what in my heart I knew was going to be what I needed to do. And I actually said to you, if this is the way I'm going to die, then I'm not going to be puking over a toilet bowl. I'm never going to lose my hair. I'm going to go to Italy, rent a villa, and eat pasta until I die. And that was it. And somehow it just made me feel like, yeah, okay, I have an option. I'll be in Italy if I'm not going to be okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to tell you, when you're diagnosed with cancer, you have two options. Mm-hmm. The first option is to fight it and do everything you can. And the second option is to let the cancer take over you. So the mindset is very important, because I had two friends. One, when she was diagnosed, her mentality was, what's the point? I'm just going to die anyway. And she died a year later. And the other one was Anne Fonfa, who said, I never believed cancer was going to kill me. And she lived 35 years with 2 types of cancer. So your mindset is very important. And when it comes down to fear, now, how do you get over your fear of cancer? It's education. When you educate yourself and you know things and you can empower yourself with so many different things, and you're constantly reading and having conversations and speaking to the people here, the doctors, the other patients, or people going through similar challenges, you start to build confidence. And when you start building confidence, your fear levels go down. So that's why it's extremely important to read everything you can, speak to doctors, watch documentaries, anything you can to absorb that information and figure out what is going to work for you. Some people go to doctors and get treatments, which is great. Some people change their diet, like Chris, and some people just believe in energy healing and overcoming their traumas and emotions. And if they're in a bad relationship or in a bad job and they're constantly have that fight or flight going on, they're always going to have a reason to be like, ugh. But when you start to realize, like, I have to overcome this, I got sick for a reason, and start kind of going backwards and thinking about all the things in your life that you're doing wrong, then you'll start figuring out all the things in your life that you can start doing right. So that's where you start. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, just to echo on that. I mean, I guess part of the approach that we took was that after studying the body as much as I did all the organs and how they work, and they work as a system, you realize that the nutrition that you bring in, you need the raw materials. You need the raw materials. So it just makes sense that if she was deficient in any of these, which in some cases you were, we didn't know how long. So as you're going through your health journey, you definitely need to make sure that your raw materials, that is, the nutrients that your body needs to do the job that's actually going to get you healthy, are in place. And so that baseline of health was really important. And then also that she had cancer. So I'm with you as far as how our vernacular and the words that we use. With Julia, we did look at it like cancer was not our friend. We wanted to get rid of it. So it had, at that point in time, if you will, won a battle insofar that it was, because the more you read about things, where chemicals come in every day, our body tackles cancers and throws it out. All right, for the most part, we're getting I mean, we got a lot of chemicals in our body, and it just knows to tackle it. But with cancer that's built, it's winning that. So we fought it in the way to say, I said, you know what? We got to strike it hard and consistently hard. So we threw, well, I mean, good things at it. Absolutely. We oxygenated her system for sure. We had a lot of wheatgrass, there was carrot juice, there was a lot of alkaline stuff in her system. So cancer could not, and I showed the study from the Nobel Prize winner that showed it can't survive. So we're basically starving it. So we starved it out and it went away. I mean,
We got rid of that bad relationship.
that was a dysfunctional
Cancer.
relationship. That's right. Darcy would not approve that one. But that was the confidence that I had in it, that I had studied and I'd seen firsthand how that worked. So it was a matter of just being consistent and how long Julie was going to need to do it. And it was remarkably fast, actually. And your doctors were surprised, but we didn't take any shortcuts. And Julia did cut out all the things that were negative or self-defeating out of her life. So she really did the 1-2 punch that you need. Put what you need in and take what you don't need out. And, that's kind of boils it down a little bit.
Great, thank you, Mark, Chris, and Jacob. Thank you very much for that. It brings back a lot of memories of what, I went through with my wife. One, going through something like this, I don't sweat the small stuff anymore. And I tell people, that person cut you off before I'd honk. Now, my brother's like, God, that would piss you off before. I said, what else? So I don't sweat the small stuff. I try to enjoy every day. It's a blessing. When Corinne went through this, we didn't give cancer the word, we called it crap. So I did those coffee enemas as well, and we visualized, and that was a bonding moment for us. That every morning I'd get up, make that organic coffee, I'd make a bed in the bathroom, and we'd lie there for an hour and a half, talk, laugh, pray, visualize. Our thing was hi-ho, off the door we go, and visualize. All that crap coming out. And with your where you are today, what do you do to keep everything at bay? Are you staying up on supplements, visualization? Chris and Jacob, are you besides exercising, food, are you doing other things just to make sure? I call it tuning up. I do tune-ups on a regular basis, and so is that something that you both do as well?
I for sure continue to exercise. I have really changed my diet. My diet evolved numerous times. I started out raw, and the raw basically was just to clean myself out completely. And then after I reset my body, I began to eat. It got to a point, my doctor said to me, you should consider animal protein again. And so that's another issue. There's so much processed food out here. All the animal protein is, most of it is processed as well. So what I eat now, fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, seeds, and I eat eggs, and I eat beef. I have to know where it comes from. It's usually a regenerative farm, so I know that those animals are just grazing on pasture, and I eat wild-caught seafood. That's the extent of my diet. I avoid dairy, and I'm at the point where I believe I need to maintain the things that helped me get here. So I will have mistletoe in my life. I will figure I will go and get a mistletoe infusion. I have like once every 2 quarters, twice a year. And I'm going to continue to get mistletoe shots in my prostate. I'll do that probably once or twice a year. Thank you.
For Chris, you said that you don't like the vernacular, and I agree with you 100%. When I first was diagnosed, I had friends
saying, warrior and fighting and the battle and the war, and it just never worked for me. So I use the term gentle healing. So this is for you, if you're interested in that. And also the visualization of like the Earth Mother rather than the warrior, because I don't feel like a warrior at all. Yeah. So, and also, Julia, you talked about taking care of all of your friends and family when you are, informing them. And that was the same for me, just so stressful to just let people know. So that's why I had to change the whole verbiage so that they understood my point of view was it wasn't a battle, but also very exciting every day, hard work, but exciting. Every new
Isn't
thing.
it? It's exciting
So
being part of
exciting.
your healing platform, right?
So exciting.
It's
Yeah.
really empowering. And I used to say to my friends would call me and say, well, I haven't heard from you. And I'm like, you know what? I love you, but I have to put you on pause right now because I really need to devote all my energy and time to becoming the CEO over my own body. I'm a CEO, CMO, CTO, CFO, whatever, right? Because it was expensive too. Everything I did was out of pocket. But thank you.
Hi, my name's Kay Blackburn, and I'm with Healing Strong. And I was sitting over there, and as you guys were all talking, I was just like, wow, these are my people. So I just wanted to applaud all of you for the journey that you've been on, because I was also diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma, which transformed from non-aggressive to very aggressive back in 2016, October. And I went through traditional chemotherapy, immunotherapy, really hardcore, and finally went through CAR T-cell therapy also, and did not get a response. So without any more options conventionally, I went holistic, and it took a couple of years, and it was a full-time job. But I am still here, and that was 8 years ago. So, thanks. But I just wanted to respond to the question that the woman asked about how do you go against like your family, even if you're trying to heal naturally, and to say no to like conventional, and how do you manage that? So I was curious how you manage that in your journeys.
Okay, I have a sister who's a doctor. And the first thing she said to me when I was diagnosed, she said, listen to your doctor. And I think I unnerved her when I asked her for a list of contacts so I can go get a second opinion, because I was not listening to that doctor. That was out of the question. I didn't feel peace from that guy. So I did not want him in my circle. I didn't want him helping me, handling me, helping me out. When I told my sister what I was going to do, she said to me, if you're not going to do that, whatever you do, you must become fanatical. And I don't know if she actually remembers telling me that. It was like a flip answer, but that's what I did. And for everybody else in my family, my ex-wife, my kids, they all tease me about me becoming fanatical and talking about it. But everybody learns from your actions. I see everybody else making changes. Stop eating the processed food. My kids are exercising. My ex-wife is looking at integrative doctors. So you really have to put your head down and take care of you. And those that love you, they'll follow suit. If they see what you're doing is good for yourself, it'll be good for them as well.
That's great.
You know, I loved all my doctors. I really did. You know, there's some amazing doctors. Look at all the doctors that are here. They're amazing. And, you know, sometimes it's a combination of conventional and alternative medicine. For me, you know, I had a total peace about my platform. And so I just forged ahead. But I became very good friends with my surgical oncologist who did my lumpectomy, and we're still friends to this day. But you just have to have a peace about what you're doing, and that's what I always say to everybody. You got to have a peace in your heart that what you're doing is right. And sometimes that's a combination, and sometimes it's one way or not the other way. But you have to have the peace. You have to do based on education and research, right?
So the toughest part of that, because you're talking about the family too, was that I remember when Julia told her dad, and her dad was like, going to Greenwich Hospital, and we're going that route. And Julia goes, Dad, it's my body. You know, you got to respect that. We're going to respect both of us, and we're going to go there. And so what happened, she told him about me. She goes, I don't know who this nutbag is that you're talking to, but this guy, no. You're going to Greenwich Hospital, and you're listening to these guys. So he sets up a meeting with 3 of the doctors at Greenwich Hospital and me. So I come prepared. I have all my facts with me. And these guys all say, you're doing this, this, or this. But actually, you know what? Even though they were Harvard guys and Yale guys, and I know there's probably a stigma with those guys, they were humble enough to say, I know how to do this. If you want to go chemotherapy, I can help you in that route. If you want to go radiation, I can help you with that route. They knew the stats, but they tell you what they didn't know. I showed them a bunch of stuff about all the naturalistic, and they said that none of that is in our library, Mark. None of that. And that was, your dad finally, I think, gave the seal of approval. He didn't hit me with a golf club, I know that.
By the way, my dad got prostate cancer about 15 years later, and when he had his surgery, the doctor said, we want you to have radiation. And he said, no, I'm not having radiation. So anyway, thank you for the question.
Yeah,
really
thank you.
appreciate it. Hi, Rick.
Hi there. My name is Rick Shapiro, former board member. I've been going to this conference since 2010. Decided a number of years ago to write a book called Hope Never Dies, which taught me a lot about some things I want to talk to you about just for a couple of minutes. First of all, I want to also say that Chris, Joseph, and Julia showed and demonstrated that inner fight, that desire to move forward, didn't buy into conventional perspectives and thoughts, and having that inner fight and that desire is critical. Keep in mind, everyone in this room, you are not a statistic. We often hear things, and it was Chris who mentioned that 70% of people who have pancreatic cancer don't make it to a year. You are not a statistic. Now, statistics that you hear are pursuant to conventional medicine's attitudes based on looking at hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people over time. Probably 98% of these people do not embark on a path which includes integrative, complementary, or alternative treatments or therapies. They just stay the course with strict standard of care. Now, strict standard of care can work, but I'm of the opinion that adding things to the mix integratively makes a hell of a lot of sense. So you are an individual, not a statistic. I've met well over 500 people who were told, I've been to about 30 conferences, I've spoken at some conferences, but I've met over 500 people who were told, get your affairs in order of every kind of cancer, pancreatic, glioblastoma, you name it, all of them, and are here 15, 20, 25 years later. So keep that in mind. I just want to say in closing, keep moving forward. If you're dealing with something that's progressing or in remission, keep thinking, keep doing your homework and research, and you are not a stat, you're not a statistic, carpe diem, and keep at it, keep moving forward. Thank you.
Hi, Gina.
Hi, my name's Gina Rufa. I'm from Pennsylvania. I spoke here last year, got to share my son's story. My son Anthony is a 2-time childhood cancer survivor, and I'm very pleased to announce that it took me 2 years to write his book and his story. It was a very painful experience, but it was also a very healthy, cathartic experience for me to recall some of these memories. My husband, who's a physician, could only get through the first chapter. He barely got through the first chapter. Can't read it. But this is a message of hope to anybody fighting cancer. I wear a ring on my finger all the time that reminds me faith over fear, because it's so easy to push the fear button when you get the big C diagnosis. But just realize that as long as you have breath, you still have hope. And a pastor of mine did a recent sermon that said, faith looks ahead, or faith looks behind from what God did yesterday. Hope looks ahead, but love looks both ways. So just remember that. My son had a less than 1% chance of long-term survival. He's 34 years old today. It started when he was 2. And you talk about being overwhelmed. I was a pharmacist and my husband was a physician finishing up residency. And we wanted to make the best decision for our son because it's very difficult for for parents to make a decision for a son. But we went integrative. We did alternative combining it with the Western medicine. We went integrative. And not to say he doesn't have disabilities. He has some disabilities, but God kept him here. 2.5 years ago, he survived a near fatal motor vehicle accident when he attempted to take his life. And God still has him here today. So you all have a purpose here.
Thank you. Okay, one more question.
That's it.
One more question.
So I keep noticing Chris passing the mic, and he hasn't answered anything, so I'm going to hold you to it. Just recently, I don't know if anybody knows Dr. Stephen Sinatra. He died of pancreatic cancer. He's a well-known cardiologist who lived his life in an incredible way, and within a short period of time, he was gone. And so I want to know what you're doing today to keep thriving.
A lot. I get in an infrared sauna for 90 minutes every day, every morning. I do my 10,000 steps every day. I am 68 and still working, 3 jobs. Still being a parent, so I'm incredibly active. I still watch what I eat. I think these lifestyle changes are changes for life. They're not just changes to get through a chronic illness. They are changes for life.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to close out the panel now, but